You don't care if we, you care if we give this to him?
Awesome.
$25.
Was that when they built it?
Tom Nye.
Yeah, 1950.
That's cool. One share.
I remember Carol and Kilbine talking about them.
I would have thought you would have had a ton of those
Uh-uh.
handed in.
No, I don't think we have any. We have some shares from the telephone company.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any particular family significance to that document, so I figured, you know.
Okay.
Okay, the other thing I came across was more photos of the accident, you know, and I think
Oh, yeah.
this is the original photo. Now,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if the photographer gave that to them after the fact.
So was it like a reporter that probably took
I
it?
wonder, like your brother Dennis kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Tom probably said, oh, give me a copy of that.
Yeah.
What was this?
This was the accident in 1944 when the depot burned.
Oh,
So he's sitting out next to a burned telephone pole or telegraph pole with his receiver ticking away. And he's sitting there taking dictation with Grandma Lela standing right next to him.
Hmm.
Now the Jessup Herald reported that when he became sick in '56, Peggy Lela filled in for him as the depot agent. And we don't know for absolute fact, but I thought my mom said at some point, maybe I'm imagining, that she actually learned the key as well, and she was able to.
Really?
I would have thought they'd have been past the key by then, but you
Well,
never
I don't
know.
know.
This is only like 8 years after this.
Okay.
So there's more
Well,
accident photos in here, and
Okay.
I don't know if any of those showed up in the Courier or whether these are all totally different.
Okay.
So,
I'm not sure we've seen that one.
yeah, so if these are new, feel free to scan them. I'd like a
You want
copy
that?
of the detail scans.
Okay.
I don't know, do you want the accident photos back, or do you care if they keep the originals?
Okay. Because
They
we
don't
can
go to
return
place.
them after we scan them.
Again, there's no
Whatever you want.
family significance to those. They're more significant to the town of Dunkerton than
right.
anything.
And
I don't
this
know
is-
which one you're looking at. There's one of them in there. Yeah, there's one of them in there of the, I'm pretty sure it's the Depot Foundation with the picture of basically the burned
Oh,
down
maybe
depot.
this one, maybe.
so did the train cause the depot to burn down?
So what happened was one of the Fed Gators ran into the train, which derailed the train. The train fell off the tracks and caught on fire. There's like several tanker car pictures in there. And then eventually it burned down the depot.
Oh.
And John Fatgather was killed in the accident.
Yeah, it was a fatal accident.
Oh.
I'm not sure if he ran into the side of the train or if the train ran into him. I'm not clear on that point.
Yeah, I don't know.
But in the dark, when remember the train was crossing, you really
Yeah.
couldn't see it because you could see under the train. It was only like the passing wheels.
Yeah, we have several newspaper articles about people wanting to have a signal put out there because of these
Oh.
accidents.
Well, I can
Because he
believe it.
wasn't the first one,
So,
or the last
Were
one.
those in the Courier then?
I
or-
think so. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
All you ever had was a crossbar marking the railroad.
I kind of missed those. I didn't see.
Yeah,
any
I
of
know
those.
there's one from Linford Bauer. It was a letter to the editor,
Ah.
and I could probably see if I can find it.
So this was on Dunkerton Road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
down there by the co-op.
Yeah.
So that looks like a tank.
Yeah, there's definitely
Yeah.
tankers, overturned, burned tankers in there.
So,
You know, think of the accident that happened in Canada not too long ago where
Mhm.
a bunch of those tanker cars derailed and caught on fire and burned down the whole town.
yeah.
That's kind of almost the
Gosh.
same
I
situation.
mean, this one's crossways.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the guy standing around in the photos with the railroad engineer hats wouldn't be Tom or Clarence Swanson, Tom Swanson, or
uh-huh.
Jack Swanson's grandfather.
Yeah.
Because he was in charge of maintenance, or he was a supervisor of maintenance or something.
Oh, cool. Those
So
are
Jack
good
was saying the
additions.
other night that, hey, Clarence got calls all the time when there's something happened and he had to go out in
Yeah,
the
he
middle of
was
the night or whatever.
He was the fix-it man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought Lois said Al Butler worked for the railroad too here.
He didn't work here.
No?
He worked somewhere else, I think for the Illinois Central, because I was kind of doing a little research on him, because Daisy was married to Henry Smith, right? And Henry was the youngest brother of the 10 kids that LWF Smith and Barbara Smith raised a mile south of Dunkerton.
Okay.
And so our great-grandfather Charles was the oldest, and Henry Smith was the youngest.
Henry or no, Art was.
No, Art was there was twins, and Minnie, was it Minnie? Yeah, Minnie and Art were twins. Minnie didn't make it. Art had some issues too, you know. He wasn't fully.
And I thought he was the youngest one of the.
And then
might have been the
Henry came right after that in 1882.
Well, Henry did.
Well, then there was another sister, Cora, that didn't make it either as an infant.
Well, there was two of them up there.
Right, we
next
found
to the-
Minnie and Cora, the little stone.
Yeah, neither one of them made it a couple of years.
We did a
They're
little
both
tour
in
yesterday, and I was
Fairview.
pointing out all the relatives in the cemetery on the hill that he wasn't even aware of. So I was like, I got some on Calvi for today. But
Well, I mean,
we were going down the
basically-
Smith Road, and I was like, well, who's this person? Well, that was Catherine was the sister to Charles, right?
Well, then you got on
And then there was-
Charles's wife's side that goes into the Brunn.
No, that
Oh,
was
that's
the
the
Heiples, right? And then
Where did the Brunn
the
come?
Biebers, which are planted right
Bieber,
next to
like
the.
Justin Bieber.
Kind of, I think it's the BIE or BEI. I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
remember. They're right next to it. It's like, well, she was the sister to Mary Elizabeth Smith, who was a Heipel. So there was 3 or 4 of the daughters that came from almost Scott County down that way up here to marry. You know, and
Yeah, because we just spent the last couple of days
Yeah,
chasing all them down.
we were in
southeast.
Fairview or
down
Elmwood
there
the other
too?
day, and we came across another
Gosh.
brother to Charles Smith and his wife, Ida. And Ida and Mary Elizabeth were sisters. So brothers married sisters. The eldest and the next eldest of the 2 Smith brothers married 2 sisters, the Heipel sisters.
Huh.
And then another younger sister married whatever his Charles Bieber or whatever his name was.
It's funny.
So when you go to these other cemeteries, you know where to look?
No.
Or you're just out?
We just have to scout around.
Oh, really?
Wow.
You might have a picture of the headstone, so
Yeah.
you kind of got an idea what you're looking for.
Right. The headstones a lot of times are
That's
in
a
Find a
lot.
Grave, you know, but we
Yeah.
don't really know where in the cemetery.
Right.
For some of them in Elmwood and Fairview, we had like a lot and a section and a lot number, but you know, without a map that
There's
shows
no-
you
You
the
don't know
section
where the
numbers.
sections
Yeah,
are.
there's no map to tell you what section it is.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's when we discovered, well, some of our relatives are here. Here, Candy's relatives are about 2 rows over.
Yeah, then we look up the Brunn family, which was our Danial Brunn was our great grandfather. So his daughter married LWF Smith, right? And that was the family that made the move from Illinois across the prairie in the ox-drawn wagons, that little
Oh,
story. Remember that
Uh-huh.
story?
Yeah.
That was that family.
Okay. So Candy
And they
said.
ended up in Barclay, just across the road, Big Rock Road on the south side, and
Yeah.
LWF Smith located there during the Civil War with his wife and 2 kids. So anyway, they lived just across the road from each other.
So did Candy say that you guys are related, maybe, to the Heiples, kind
Oh,
of,
you know,
sort of?
there's rumor. But anyway,
They were hitting at that because all those people are buried right in the same area.
we were looking at the Brunns, you know, and Candy's like, well, here's our family over here. We're like, 15 feet apart kind of thing, you know. It's like, and then they were looking at all the gravestones they knew about and marking her with flowers and stuff, you know, and it's like, well, you realize this is your great-grandfather right here, right? You know, whatever his name was.
Yeah, I couldn't. There's been so many names.
I want to say Sturgis, but Heiple. It wasn't that, but it was like
Huh.
Sherman Heiple or something.
Hmm.
And they were just like, and the stone was facing the opposite way of the other stones, I think was the problem. So they never bothered to look on the other side of the stone kind of thing. But,
Hmm.
Because Joe
So-
had been bringing flowers up to some of those graves and didn't even realize that there was a lot more of the relatives right there.
yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
Anyway. Then we found a bunch of the Emerts while we were there as
Did you?
well. J.J. Emert, who was the founder of Dewar,
Mm-hmm.
and some of his daughters and sons.
Yeah, we got a little Dewar section right behind you there.
Yeah. Well, that's,
We've been
they're all
getting.
tied together.
They are. We've been getting some things from Jules, from her mom mostly, and just going through. And
Yeah, the early history of Dewar was pretty colorful, you know.
Yeah.
'cause our great-grandfather was O.W. Follett, who had this Follett and Emert store there,
Yeah.
and then the elevator, and then
I just posted the elevator on Museum Monday a few weeks ago.
yeah, I
Did you
saw
see it?
that. Yeah, I did.
That's a neat little postcard.
So the Follett daughter, Lora, was the one that married Oliver, our grandfather.
Mhm.
So we are all sort of tied together one way or the other.
And you have a Lora and a Lela in your history
Yeah, so
besides your
Lela
sisters.
was the Lela that married Tom Nye, and Laura was the Laura Follett that married Oliver
Okay.
Smith. So that was the
Carrying
name
on the
source for
names,
those two.
yeah.
I don't know where our names came from.
Well, I know where mine come from.
Where'd yours come from?
Calhoun, Dad's middle name.
Oh, right.
Now,
Oh,
where they ever come up with it for him, I have no idea.
Good point.
Hmm.
So anyway, we had a lot of fun this week finding relatives that, it's like Doug's sitting there, goes, okay, who am I sitting on here? That's your great-great-great-grandfather you're sitting on there. I don't think he minds that you're sitting there, but it's important to know who you're sitting on. At
yeah,
least, right?
yeah.
Yeah, because that one pebble we found down there, that one,
The
lost-
first or the second?
the lost, what'd they call it? It was the town, but it was a Lutheran.
Oh, yeah, the Salem
Lost-
Lutheran Cemetery?
Yeah, but it had another something, lost something or other.
Yeah, it was one of those cemeteries that had several different names to it associated with it. It was practically, you had to go through the farmyard to get to it kind of thing, because it was completely surrounded by now farm properties.
So did you go to all the old cemeteries around here?
We haven't.
Oh,
We were just prioritizing, I was like, let's do our direct relatives, and then we'll start talking about branching out or whatever. Doug's like, well, we should go to southern Iowa. It's like, well, why are you going home then,
Do you have anybody out at Lester?
And I don't believe we do we? Because
I don't know.
when Danial Brunn and LWF Smith moved to this direction, Dunkerton wasn't here yet.
Right.
And, they went out to Lester, I think, for their supplies and stuff. And when Danial Brunn, in 1855, in the fall, he bought 160 acres south of town. He also bought another 25 acres up on the river, which is now north of Dunkerton, along the Wapsie. And he did that so he got lumber for his cabin. And then he paid somebody that fall to cut the lumber and pull it across the creek when it was frozen. So then when he relocated here in the spring of 1856, he had a source
He had a
of wood
pile
for his
lumber
cabin.
already.
Yeah. So
Pretty cool.
anyway, that story of their little prairie journey, I've gotten thanks from other Brunn family members, distant relatives now, that it's like, wow, we never heard any of that story before. And it's like, well, you can thank my Aunt Lulu, great Aunt Lulu.
Yeah.
She dictated, the youngest son dictated that in 1932 before he died in 34. So
and who was the Brunn?
the Brunns were German immigrants that their daughter Barbara married the Smith. That was the Smith connection there.
Our great grandfather.
They would have passed through Independence, and I thought, well, maybe those two met each other in Independence while they were moving through Independence to go to, Barclay County or Bartley Township, because the two Smith brothers, Lewis, now he actually went by William, his middle name, and his brother John, were living together in Independence as stonemasons, working as stonemasons. So anyway, on the Smith side, I spent a lot of time trying to figure it out. It turned out that 3 of the Schmidt brothers immigrated in through Racine, Wisconsin at about the same time. So there's a good chance they all came together.
So did they settle on Barclay or Pointer or both eventually?
No, it was all Barclay and then Lester. So Danial Brunn bought, basically they owned everything from the railroad tracks to, was that Canfield Road, the north-south road, to the cemetery. He owned all that.
Wow.
By the time he retired off the farm in 1912 or something, he had all that. And he had also bought his father-in-law's property on the south side of the road. There was 160 acres or something. They kind of got divided.
You're talking right out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big Rock Road right there.
You know, and the weird thing was Vicky Rowery, and she goes, well, we moved here. We actually rented a farm right out there. I said, well, that's a pretty good chance that was the farm that our great-great-grandfather lived on. And then his youngest son, Henry, lived on it and raised Lois's mom and dad.
Right.
Because it was either the Shares or right next to the Shares. It was one of those properties just across the road, and I don't know which is which anymore.
Yeah. She said they lived right before you got to the railroad tracks on the north side.
Yeah, so they might have been. So I don't know which one of those, but you should get Lois to tell the story of
Her mom.
her dad, Earl, coming from north of town on his horse to woo her mother,
Irene.
and all the stories about how he would like put the horse on auto drive and he would take him home while he slept on the horse, you know. She was telling some good stories.
People tell stories like that.
But-
Just leave and turn the horse loose, and just you could pull on a sleigh or whatever, and then take him. Name the horse knew the way. So
Yeah.
maybe that's where that line
Was
came from.
was
that
there?
song. That horse knows the way to carry the sleigh.
Yeah. Was there a Smith though that owned the Stout farm?
Yeah, that was our great grandfather, Charles. He bought that in
Okay.
1890. And then,
Where Dave lives?
Yeah.
yeah. And then the opposite 160 acres on the south, let's see, I gotta turn around, southeast side, his brother Edwin or Edward owned that. And it was their daughter that married into the Stout family.
Okay.
And then he came and took over that farm, and eventually he took over the Charles Smith farm. Charles retired and moved into town around 1924. He had his two youngest children, Roger and Blanche. Blanche was the one that married Frank Kleckner. Roger moved off to the West Coast. Anyway, they lived in town down, is that Sycamore Street where we lived on?
Yeah.
Down like the second house to the last on the left side was
Down
the
towards
house
the co-op.
they either built or bought and lived in until,
That's where June was at.
yeah, that's where June ended up. Our
That's where Harold
great aunt
DeLong
June,
lived for a while.
she
Across the tracks,
she
yeah.
stayed and took care of the father. Her the mother died in the 20s, 24 or 25 or something, of a heart attack, and he stayed there. June stayed, and all the other kids left. So anyway,
Are you talking about June Cummings, or is that a different June?
No.
that's a
June
different
Smith.
June.
Oh.
So when LWF Smith retired, he moved into town, into the house across the street. You know, when we were growing up, the Hauptleys lived in there,
Mm-hmm.
and then they rented it or something to the Stone family, and then I think Bob Haupley bought it lastly or something just before he died. Anyway, it's kind of like it's the house that's kind of like near the alley as you're going up. What's the street that goes from the old bank up to the top of the hill there?
I don't know, but I think it's in our tour, our self-guided tour.
Yeah.
Carroll Hauptly's house.
Anyway, he moved into that house, and then his youngest two kids, actually three kids, Henry, Art, and a sister, lived there with their parents until his wife died, and then Art lived there until the Hauptleys bought it from him, and then they lived there, raised a bunch of their kids there until they moved out to the east side of town on Dunkerton Road.
So where did Tom and Lela live?
Well, he arrived in town here in March of '33, and they rented the house just across the street from the community hall.
Which isn't there anymore?
No, it's still there. It's one of the ones that's still there. It's the
Okay.
only one still there.
Clarence Miller's house is where they lived.
Yeah,
Okay.
isn't that still there?
No, it's not
No,
there.
it's gone.
Oh,
The
okay.
flood took it.
Yeah.
So who lived in the house that's still there then?
I think that one actually got moved in,
Oh.
or else they raised it after the flood.
Yeah.
So they rented that house
Okay.
all the way up through about
Mom talked about
1948 or
living over
9
there.
or something like that. By 1950, they were in the house just across the street from the house we grew up in, which was the Kleckner house on Sycamore.
Mm-hmm.
So her mom was just a stone's throw away, you know. You literally could look out the window. It was like the third house down the street.
Yeah, because you had Jenny Hines and Morty and Minnie Geyers and Grandma.
Yeah. But nobody knows those people anymore.
Yeah, well, you had the corner house right there. That's where Jenny was. And then we found out, well, you're the one who told me that Morty and Minnie Geyer were actually relatives of ours.
Yeah, the house that Dick Eldridge now lives in, which is the second house from the corner of Washington and Sycamore. Is that the two cross streets? I should have looked at the
I'm not
map
sure
to
which
refresh
one it
my
is.
memory.
Is there a map over there?
I think it is
Liz?
Sycamore. It is Sycamore.
Or definitely one of them Sycamore.
It
Over
is
there
Sycamore.
where the sign
Anyway,
book is?
the house that Dick Eldridge has been living in for at least 10 years or something. It turns out that
The self-guided tour, is that there?
It turns out that was a second cousin, and a second cousin once removed through the Brunn side of the family, you know, but we didn't.
When you say Brunns, it's B-R-U-N with no S.
B-R-U double N, no
Double
S.
N, okay, so it's not the Brunns that we went to
No,
school with.
no.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so
It is Sycamore.
Marble's the street that runs north-south from the bank,
Yeah.
and then
Well, now we're over a block further.
Dunkerton, let's see,
Marble's where the
Canfield, it's Canfield Street in Sycamore.
Canfield's a highway.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're 2
okay.
blocks west of that.
Am I going the wrong way here then? So it's the other way. Washington and Sycamore, that's the corner that we're talking about.
Because I could never, before they put addresses, they only had P.O. boxes. I never knew which street we actually called for.
Yeah,
I know.
But they were named because if you look in the early censuses, they actually, you know, indicated on there which street they lived on, which kind of helped. So anyway, so it turns out that, so we grew up in the house that was associated with the farm that Oliver rented, which was owned by the Kleckners, and it turns out the house we lived in was Charles Kleckner's house. He moved into after he retired off the farm. So that farm was 2 miles south of town,
Where Zooks are at.
where the Zooks are at now. And they moved, Oliver moved there in 1940 after they, so he took out a $10,000 mortgage on the farm when he took over it from his dad in 25, and to make improvements to the properties. And I don't know what he used the money for. He didn't build a new house. It was farm improvements, maybe equipment. And during the Depression, somehow he got behind in the payments, and it wasn't until like 39 that the bank foreclosed on him. So in like 1940, when our dad and his sisters were in high school, that they had to relocate to the Kleckner farm, and then they were there up until
68 is
68
Grandpa got off the farm.
when he retired at age 77
78.
or 78.
It's just a cornucopia of dates, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I don't know how you know all that off the top of your head.
Well, that's because they did the family history stuff, you know, and it's like this stuff.
I know, I still don't remember though.
Well, the year that, well, I was there and you were there with the
And he pulled out the bill of sale thing today with the advertisement on it, you know, that was,
Grandpa's.
and then Oliver moved, and his brother-in-law, Uncle Pete, moved into town on
Where McLean's live.
Okay.
the east side of town. Is that east or west? I get
East
turned
side.
around here.
Yeah.
East side.
Gotta stand face north. I know that's east then.
Because he stood on the front porch of that house when that tornado come through here in the 70s.
Yeah, took out the Bar-Haup addition
Yeah,
there.
took the Bar-Haup,
Yeah.
come down the football field and then into the bar addition down there. The one house blew up and he just said, look at it, look at it. His hands was just shaking.
Oh.
I've never seen a tornado. I don't want to see another one.
And we had just been up there playing like a game of sandlot football with a bunch of kids from either Dewar or somewhere, you know.
Yeah, that was,
When the weather started turning bad, it's like, oh, you better go
well,
home.
that was in November, wasn't it? It was an odd time of year because they kept saying, oh, that couldn't have been a tornado.
Yeah.
It was a real warm day.
We were at that football game, and my mom had a broken foot, and so we're all rushing back up to the school, and Rob and my brother Mike had her between them, you know, and she goes, "Go ahead, leave me, save yourselves." It's like we're gonna leave our mother with a broken foot. So yeah, that
Sure,
was,
Ma.
yeah.
So I'm not sure about the telegraph key, whether his original key burned up in the depot fire. This was the one that got passed down to the next generation anyway, and it's got a ticket on here. So, add Dunkerton, TT Nye, agent, telegraph key from Waterloo. The date's 9-23, but I don't know. I don't think that's a year because he wasn't in Dunkerton until 33. So this is probably September 23rd of some year.
Okay.
Which there's no date of manufacturing or anything on the device itself, so I don't really know.
So the picture where he's out at the pole, does he have a telegraph key connected, or?
Well,
what
he's
was
got
he
the
actually
receiver
doing?
mounted on the pole, which is the
Okay.
thing that ticks away, so you can tell what the heck's
Yeah, but I thought he
being
had,
said.
had that down, sitting on a.
But if he was, yeah, if he was actually,
Where's that picture?
here's the original here.
We have a,
Cause isn't that
blown
sitting right
up
there
one
on
of
the
that.
knee? You'd have to blow
This
it
is
up a
the
little bit.
this is the advantage of scanning and blowing it up, because then
yeah, we do have an enlarged copy
yeah, the
of
one
that.
on the paper archive.
Magnifying glass.
This is the one that ended up in the Courier, and then basically I.
Here, it's up on the wall here.
Yeah, there's the same photo. Well, that's just his coat. But he's listening.
Yeah, so you can see that'd be the receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the receiver there. That looks like a.
That is that what's sitting down over here?
Whoa, who knows? That looks like a field receiver kind of thing that you'd actually use if you were a lineman, maybe.
Well, you didn't
Because
have
it's
any
got
other
the
option.
it's
So
got the
he-
rope handle on it there. Maybe there was a transmitter associated with that, because if you're in the field and you're trying to communicate,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't want to have a bunch of individual
So
stuff.
he's obviously taking notes.
Yeah, he's there.
Because that almost looks like that device, because it was kind of sideways when you tapped on it.
Well, if he had his key or a key there, it'd be probably down here someplace close to the pole. But I bet you that thing
There's
there
a
could
couple
probably
wires
send and
coming
receive.
down.
I wouldn't be surprised if that could send and receive, to be
Because
honest.
it looks like there's a couple of wires coming down out of there.
Either that or that's a portable telephone. I'm not sure.
So is that different from the photos that you brought in?
I don't know. We laid them on the counter over here.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to keep track of all that stuff.
Some of these I definitely didn't recognize. It's like, I don't think I've seen this one before. These must be from Tom's personal collection. Yeah, none of those
look
are
like
that
they're all
same.
new.
Yeah, they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
See this guy right here, I was thinking, you know what, that could be Clarence Swanson, because he got that railroad hat on. I remember him wearing that kind of a hat. Same one we saw at the Railroad Museum the other day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the heavy lift crane he used to
Pick up
pick up the
cars.
cars. You know, the vintage cars in here are all like late 30s, early 40s. That's what made me think these have to be from this accident rather than the one from, what was it, 1912 or something?
Yeah, I think there's several bad
There was
ones.
one photo I thought actually had cars in it, but I'm not seeing it.
So it was 1944
You're right.
when this one happened.
You know, and I don't believe the 1912 fire had accident had a fire associated with it, did it?
When the first depot burned down?
No, that was not related to an accident, though,
Okay.
right?
Well, that was
Wasn't
a
that a
lightning,
lightning strike or
lightning
something
strike,
you
yeah,
said?
yeah. So here's your grandpa.
Yeah, no, there could be a better one of him that's not looking like he's looking at the clouds. That
We might have it over.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, we've got it in that case over there.
Yeah, you know, I don't know who this girl is here. That's definitely Annetta.
Okay.
So my mom, Edith, and Annetta were both born in Gladbrook in the late 20s. So Tom started working for the railroad before 1925. When he came back from the war, he was a radio man on the Thruxton during the war. And he went to Harvard to actually learn to be a radio man.
Did he?
Calvin's got a certificate someplace he can't find.
Got his
Shows his diploma.
Cool.
So he left like in, August of 1917. He graduated in 18 from radio man school, and then spent like August of 18 or maybe a little earlier than that, through March of 19 on the Thruxton as the radio man.
So is that a ship?
It's a destroyer, USS Thruxton.
Okay.
And then it was taken into the East Coast someplace and decommissioned, and then he was released from the Navy. Ended back up. See, his father was also a depot agent. A.D. Nye was a depot agent. So Tom Nye and his brother and sister were born in Athelstan, which is like, if you look at the railroad stop map, it's like the last stop in Iowa on the Missouri border. And then he ended up in the town just north of that. I want to say Bedford, but that's not right. But it's Benton. Ended up in Benton for a long time. And they were living in Benton when Tom came back from the war, and he basically got a job as a laborer with the railroad. And he married our grandmother Lela, in like February of 1920. And then a year later, or 9 months later, Lucille was born. Helen Lucille was born in Kansas City, and he was working as a laborer for the railroad down there. So
what brought him to Dunkerton?
Well, then by 25, he was in Gladbrook working as a railroad agent.
Okay.
So at some point, he got promoted to being an agent, and they spent like 25-ish to around 29 in Gladbrook. The two girls were born there, the two younger daughters. He doesn't show up in the 1930 census. His wife, our grandmother Lela, and the three girls were living with his father and mother down in Benton in 1930 census, like in January of 1930 or whenever that was taken. And I couldn't find him anywhere. And then we came across in the family stuff a postcard addressed to him in Cummings, Iowa, dated March of 1930. So he was doing a temporary stint or something in Cumming, Iowa, which is the first stop south of Des Moines.
Okay.
And then he got moved to Waterloo, and he shows up in the Waterloo directory for 1931-ish or something as a tower man for the railroad. So he was basically working as whatever a tower man was. He had bought a lot. I just recently found a reference in the newspaper about him buying a lot in Waterloo. And then by March of 33, I don't know how I nailed it to approximately March of 33, he got transferred to Dunkerton, and then basically lived in Dunkerton until his death in 56. So that's kind of his history. You know, he moved around quite a bit. His father did too.
Railroad related.
They were going to wherever they were needed for some short term something or other. Kind of like what Doug was doing, you know, living out of a suitcase every summer, filling in for all the agents. But anyway, that's how he ended up in Dunkerton. And then the three girls graduated from Dunkerton High and went off to school. And I think all three of them went to UNI, or Iowa State teachers, to become teachers.
Teachers college, yeah.
Even my mother went for a year or two. And
well, Annetta was my mom's teacher.
Yeah, she was a teacher.
Yeah,
I don't think my mother ever got a chance because she got married and then started having kids right away.
Yeah.
And she became a full-time mom.
She actually lived with Grandpa and Grandma while she was teaching.
Yeah, that's a nice little tidbit to our storyline. You know, it's like, wow, they're interlinked to the families here.
Yeah.
And you've got the picture of them standing out in front of either the school or your mom's house or something.
Yeah. Mom was the only one in her class, and she was the oldest. When she was in 7th and 8th grade, she was the only student at that age.
She was the only junior high or whatever.
Yeah, so she was kind of like Annetta's little helper. You know?
I could see where that could happen.
I wonder how many other kids were in the school at the time. I remember
Which school was that at?
The Gresham school that we moved in. Down here.
Okay.
That sat at our corner.
Okay.
So Larry,
And
who
then-
was the third sister?
Her formal name was Helen Lucille, but she went by Lucille her whole life.
Did she live around here?
She married Darrell Grinnell, and the Grinnells were
Ah,
from
there's
around
the
here.
Grinnell.
Darrell grew up here too.
Yeah, there's the
Daryl's
Grinnell
a
and
cousin
the-
to Shirley Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So there's that crossover. And then Darrell went on to get like, I don't know, it was a PhD or something, and then he became like an administrator of schools
In Waterloo.
in Waterloo, and he was something on
And
the
she taught at West High
yeah.
for a while.
Lucille taught at West High all the way up through.
so Lucille was the
still
oldest.
teaching when I
Yeah,
was
she's
a
the
kid.
oldest, and Annetta, and then our mother.
Okay.
She was
Yeah.
a baby.
So you're related to Lori Jones and the Chapmans?
We're not related, direct relation. We're just like shirt tail
Marriage.
relation.
By marriage.
By marriage.
Everybody's related somehow or
In a
another.
small town.
This wasn't Shirley or Grinnell?
Yeah.
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 Okay,
She's a cousin to Darrell.
gotcha.
Yeah, and Daryl's parents was Joe and Mabel.
Yep.
And I think they lived, was it north of town someplace? I can't remember
Yeah, I'm not
exactly where the
sure.
Grinnells lived, but
Yeah. All them. Somehow or another, all the people lived around here. You had marriages going on. And,
Well, you had a
know,
small pool. you
Yeah,
know?
Yeah.
you did. That's what we were talking about. It seemed you were asking about how did these people down in southeast Iowa get tied up with this bunch of guys up here in Lester Township, and you said something about a German paper or something. They must have.
yeah, there was a German language newspaper published out of Waterloo from like the 1850s all the way up through the 1920 or something. And I'm sure right now that's not online anywhere that I can find. It's in the archives of, well, I can't remember the name of the organization. It's in the archives, but I bet you there's probably like personal ads or something in
Yeah.
there where German farmer with 3 sons looking for German daughters. You know, I would like to find something like that. That would be so cool.
Yeah.
But how else would boys from Barclay Township end up hooked up with girls from Johnson and Scott counties down in the lower, southeast Iowa?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a hell of a drive, a couple-hour drive to get down there. I can't imagine on horseback or whatever.
Yeah, 'cause usually they
Train.
didn't wander that far to find a spouse, because you got all them brothers and sisters and marrying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like the common nexus between the Smith/Schmidt family and a lot of the other ones, like the Brunn and some of those, they were all in northwest Illinois. That was a big German center there. And recently, when I ended up testing Doug and Calvin for DNA on Ancestry,
Mm-hmm.
I got a hit from a Smith line, and I traced that line back, and it traced it back to another Lewis Smith, who happened to arrive in Racine, Wisconsin, right around the same early 1850s. And I thought, shoot, this is one of the long lost brothers I've been trying to track down.
Oh.
So he was like 6 or 8 years older than our LWF Smith, and his formal name, birth name, was Ludwig. So he was the first Ludwig, and then I couldn't find anything of him. I thought, well, maybe he died, and they named another later child Ludwig.
Yeah, they did that.
But no, they were both alive. And then when they both ended up in Racine at the same time, I think, oh, I'm pretty sure all 3 of those brothers climbed on a boat, a steamer of some kind, and took the trip over.
Yeah, part of it might have been dodging the draft over there
Well,
too.
it was, they had the big like German Revolution thing going on at that point in time, where all their the intellectual leaders of the country all came to the States. And now if you look, there's a lot of famous German immigrants from around 1850, 49, 50, somewhere in there. So there was a lot of upheaval in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But you could see where a German paper around here would go good, because our grandfather, being the 3rd generation,
Still spoke it.
that's all he knew until he went to school, was German.
Yeah, when you talk about him going to school, that's this picture here, Cav. This is the one that was out of Marie Bauer's History of
Yeah.
Dunkerton photo.
So that has May Smith in it
It has a lot of them.
and June Smith.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's our great Aunt May.
There's Oliver.
That's, let's see, one of these here. That's Walter, our great uncle. One of these is Nora, the eldest of this girl. I think that's Nora Smith.
Yeah, Nora Smith, Walter Smith.
Walter's
That
right
girl.
there. June is one of these, and I'm not sure if it's this one or this one. Oliver's
I'm
right
guessing
there.
From the looks, I would say that one.
So Charles actually set aside a corner of his property on the Dewar corner, 3 miles out of town here. Right there is where the Blakeyville School was
Yep.
located.
Yep.
And it actually shows up on the land plats too. And if you look at the land plat for his property. And, you know, we always heard these stories about how far they all had to walk to school, but it was like just down to the corner, which is maybe a quarter mile or
Yeah.
something. But, you know, until I came across, probably from you, I saw maybe some reference to the Dunkerton thing, and I was like, wow, there's the photo.
Well, we saw that name too.
Minnie is a very, or Millie. Selzer, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
Selzer, not too, it was right up in the same section of the cemetery. Walter, yeah. Walter Washington Smith. We visited him. Was he in Elmwood? I think in Waterloo. And May she married a Snyder. Christian Snyder was the name of the father, and they lived 1 mile south of Dewar and east. He had a farm. And that's another case where Walter married a Schneider and she married a Snyder. So brother and sister married brother and sister. And by 1930, they show up on the census as May and her husband, Herb, is what he went by, took the corner on the intersection just a mile south of Dewar. They were on this corner. Walter and his wife Lillian Snyder Smith was on the other side of the street. And they both had like 80 acres or something. And then Christian, the father, Snyder, he was right next to that. So I don't know if he subdivided and gave his son that section or 80-acre section or whatever. But they were all like right down there. And by the end of the 30s, they were all gone. May and her husband lived in Waterloo, and he worked as an electrician. Walter, he ended up moving up to somewhere north of here. I can't remember. And he died in 54, I think, somewhere thereabouts. So Nora was the eldest, and he was the second eldest then. Nora, she married a Scotsman, Blackie.
Douglas Blackhall.
Yeah, Blackhall. That's it. And he was quite a prominent person in Waterloo. He worked for Rath, and he was mentioned in the paper a lot. There was a picture of him with his sister visiting. They were sitting in their living room, and it was like a big picture in the Courier, you know. We actually made it. Christina and I made it over to Scotland to visit Blackie's sister when we were living there in the 80s before she died. And that was pretty interesting.
I bet.
Because I remember they were always talking about going back to Scotland to see his family.
Yeah, he did. There was an article in there about them going back to visit.
So going back to that picture, you do not know who that girl
We
is
do
with
not
your
know.
grandpa. Okay.
She's either just a friend of Annetta or some sort of a distant relative.
Okay. Well,
I'm not sure.
I'll have to check our
I'm not
documentation.
sure who would rate the honor of getting a Tom Nye photo with his agent hat on.
Yeah,
you know?
really. Must have been somebody special.
So I came across the map out of the archives, probably the Iowa archives, Iowa State or Iowa University of Iowa archives, of a freight rate map. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think so.
So you can actually, it's pretty cool. And you need to find that original and then get it printed, maybe a large format or something, because it shows the cost to ship stuff to Chicago or to Kansas City or to St. Paul. I think there's like 3 different rates per pound or per whatever. sorry. Somebody's calling.
What'd you tell me about?
It's a 319 number.
Really?
Oh, it's Dick.
That's okay, I'll just make a,
I'll call him back.
okay, that will, I am so
Um,
sorry, because I just totally walked out.
Anyway, it gives you the cost of different things, and it's posted along the routes, so you could kind of figure out what it would cost you to ship a, you know.
And now
whatever.
that you say that, I think we do have some of those somewhere.
I may
Yeah,
have
it
contacted
was one of the ones that was in the, I think in the Iowa archives.
Okay.
bank.
Because we were just over to Old Wine Sunday to the museum over there.
Mm-hmm.
And Doug, he was all excited because he could pick up, well, I was here, I was here, I was
Yeah, I
here.
bet he was.
And I said, well, I
Yeah,
remember
that was on the
going
same map that you
here
have a
and
copy
here.
of here, or at least an image
Yeah,
of.
we've got a map that is in our model.
Yes, oh,
We
gosh.
come over here.
All the time in the world. I'm planning on being there. And if it's bothering you, I'll just bring it out. Okay? 'Cause I have-
You know, the large format printing doesn't really cost that much.
Yeah.
How are you?
So that's an original right out of one of the
Who we're
books.
cracking on
And
Fairview.
Oh, it is. That's an original.
That's a
Yeah.
good
Cool.
thing.
And it still shows Berlin instead of Lincoln.
Yeah.
So this is an actual model that is of our depot.
Tangled this
And
over
where did the model come from?
60 years of-
From the company that does the railroad models, and he worked with somebody from Lincoln and got the exact dimensions
Oh, wow.
so that it matches the Lincoln depot.
a brother and sister,
This is
married brother and
the
sister.
Berlin,
Yep.
our depot, in its heyday when it was still known as Berlin.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now,
I think
where was
that's
that at?
1910.
Berlin was a couple stops south of Waterloo, right?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, down that direction.
So during the war, it was probably at the start of the war or something when they renamed it.
After World War One.
Was it after the war?
Yeah, Berlin was not popular anymore, so they changed it to Lincoln.
I'm surprised they waited that long. 'Cause
Oh,
I would have.
Lincoln, there
I
you
would
go.
have.
I know where Lincoln is.
I would have assumed that they would have changed it earlier in the war when it was
Mhm.
at the
Yeah.
height of the unpopularity.
But on this map, it still shows Berlin.
Yeah, so that's pre-World War One then, obviously.
Well, if I've got a date on it, I'm sure it's documented in.
Yeah, if you look at that, and just at the Iowa border there, there's Athelstan, and that's where, and then just north of that is Benton. Those are the two
Okay.
stations that A.D. Nye worked at for years.
So here's the timetables.
Yeah, how many passenger? There was at least 2 a day, right? From
Yeah, I
Waterloo
think
to
so.
Dunkerton?
So there's the map.
All right, there's another. That's an original.
Yeah, it's an original. I'm trying to see if it says Lincoln or Berlin.
Have you
Can't
found a
see it.
copy of the history of the Corn Belt Railroad?
We have a book, yeah.
Yeah,
The book.
kind of a purple or blue color
Yeah.
cover.
Mm-hmm. So here's index to the stations. And here, somewhere there's a timetable when it came through.
Yeah, you could actually take the, as I understand, you could take the passenger train into Waterloo, spend the evening with your wife, and then catch the last train
Yeah,
out or whatever, back to Dunkerton. So you could do a movie outing or something on the railroad both ways.
That one's Denison. Here's Hudson.
Waterloo,
Gladbrook.
Dewar.
Well, that explains why there was
There's
There's
Dunkerton.
Dunkerton.
2 movie theaters in downtown Waterloo at one time.
11:25 northbound. So Waterloo was 11 o'clock, so it took like 25 minutes to get from Waterloo to Dunkerton. And what are these now? So there's a 9:30, a 3:39. I'm not sure I understand all these.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, southbound, read down. Yeah, you can catch 322 out of Dunkerton and end up in Waterloo at 3:39. So you could catch the afternoon thing and then get home by 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a nice little thing. Where'd you find that?
I'd have to look in our documentation, but we've got everything numbered and
Ah,
documented. And then this is actually kind of cool
By
because,
Tom Magee,
yeah,
Dunkerton, value $8.
came from his son Jack, who was in the Navy.
What do you suppose it was
I don't know.
in 44? So the photo of Tom Magee standing in front of the depot, was that the very first depot or was that the second depot?
I don't know for sure. I think probably the second.
Because that kind of looks World War I vintagey.
Yeah,
And you said the original depot burned in 1912?
12, I think.
So it
yeah.
might have been the second generation
Yeah, I think
depot.
the second one.
Where did Silver Spike come from?
I'd have to, owned by Clarence Swanson. So it might have been like a
His
retirement.
retirement thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Since I didn't realize he was a big wig in the Chicago Western.
Yeah,
So-
he actually worked out of Oldwine though.
Yeah.
Is what Jeff
That's where he
said.
was based.
Yeah,
but he
based
lived
out of
here.
Oldwine. Yeah, right.
But anywhere there was issues with the track maintenance. So Doug was telling stories when we were over at the Hub City place going, well, every year I had to come over here at spring break and I had to come up into this building and go up into this office over here and tell them I'm ready to go to work again starting in May, whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. So we've been collecting Telegraph
Yeah.
insulators with the intention of putting them on the building.
Oh,
There's
cool.
actually a cutout in one of the braces from the roof where the Telegraph
Really?
arm.
And that was on the end or the side or where would it have been?
Well, I'm not sure it shows in this picture. But the holes are on this corner, and it's right in the one on the end. You can see where it's cut out.
So that's where the wires would have come in,
Yeah,
phone
mhm.
wires.
Yep.
According to Doug, even by the 70s, that they had a telephone that was the railroad telephone, and then they still had a lot of the telegraph stuff there,
Mm-hmm.
even though they weren't being used. And then there was the, public telephone. So there was like two phones and then the telegraph.
Mm-hmm. So let's see your key.
Sure. What do you want to? You want to do it there where you're at?
Yeah, since they're
Good lighting in there. So anyway, this was upstairs in the Grandma Nye's house when, there was always these treasures upstairs. Do you ever go upstairs and snoop around in Grandma Nye's
Oh, I
house?
did.
There was where was the big photo? Was that on the front porch that they had of the Thruxton and the entire
No, that
crew?
was over in the corner of the living room.
Okay.
Was it Thruxton or Truxton?
Well, it might have been Truxton.
okay.
So there's not much to these things other than Imperial Vibroplex, the Astos Electric Novelty Company, Chicago, number 5776. So I don't know if there's any hope of being able to look up that serial number to figure out whether or not
Yeah, I'll
what year
try.
it was manufactured.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be able to.
But you had the long and the shorts, right?
Yeah.
So this would be the short, and then this would be the long because it had a longer travel time,
Okay.
and the contact was up here rather than here.
So when the signals came in, it did the same clicking
On the receiver.
on the receiver.
Yeah.
Okay, not on this.
Nope.
This was just for
And
sending.
how they separated the receiver from the transmitter, maybe it was just this. They would just transmit and then turn it off and then wait for the receiver to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Or that might have transferred it over to the receiver.
I don't know how they're wired. That would be something worth looking into.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was over there at the railroad depot or museum in Oldwine there.
Yeah, they had a receiver with a little telescoping arm, on it. That was pretty cool. I sent you the picture. It was like way up here, and I was like photographing it without being able to see what I was photographing. But they had it rigged up through some sort of a
Walkman is what it was.
Walkman connected to some box and then connected to the receiver, and there was something on the Walkman that basically was giving the
Sending the signal.
sending the signal, yeah, and the receiver was just like.
So it was still, it was clicking though, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how cool. Yep, I'm gonna have to go back and
Yeah.
visit with Ed.
Yeah. He said, I'll give them a copy of this CD. That's no big deal. It's like, well, you have any extra receivers you're not using? Well, I don't know about that. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Well,
well,
I
they could
think-
probably do you a trade here,
Yeah.
you know.
And we may have what we need.
I think you
as in
do,
storage.
whether they function or not, that's
Yeah,
the question.
Right. So these are
So I
totally,
suspect that the receiver is always in that wooden little thing for
Yeah,
amplification,
right.
so you can hear the signal better.
So my little research has said that that was the sounding board.
The sounding board.
Yeah,
That
so
makes sense.
Makes sense that it would amplify.
Yeah.
So these are totally different. This one I got from my cousin, who's a big railroad buff up in Mason City. This one I can't remember where it came from. Actually, I think this one might have come with the receiver and everything.
Oh, right. So I did
So,
see the
but
receiver.
totally different.
But you don't know which one of the two the receiver set came with. Or maybe they weren't.
Well,
really a
this one
set.
came by itself
Okay.
because it came from my cousin.
See, and I don't know how they did the long and the short with something like this, because
Yeah.
there's only one travel arm.
Right. Makes more sense to have that.
It was pretty cool when they lit that thing up. And it was like, man, this sounds like an old depot, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, oh.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So anyway, add that to your collection,
We
because,
will. We appreciate
you know,
it.
it's nice to get it back to some place where if it goes into the old depot building, that's
Yeah.
even better, you know? It's
That's
like,
where
wow.
we intend to have it.
Yeah. I think Tom would be
So-
pleased to have that happen, you know?
Good. You see, we do have the Dunkerton Depot signs.
Oh, those are from the depot.
Those are from the last depot.
Oh, right. Before it burned down then or whatever.
Well, before they tore it down.
Is that what they did? They
yeah,
tore it down?
they ended up tearing it down.
Yeah, there was
brought
nothing
those in.
special about that depot. Architecturally speaking,
Yeah,
they just got
it
simpler
wasn't-
and simpler all the
Yeah,
time.
didn't have the quaintness of the old CGW.
Right.
Yeah. So those, if you come and look at the pictures over here.
Well, we were trying to talk about getting a few of the signs from him from the CGW over there.
Yeah, Chicago.
I know
signs.
they are a premium because you don't find them
They're
anymore.
definitely collector's
Yeah.
items.
So
Yeah, that's the other photo.
That's the
of
photo
Tom
you were
standing
talking
in
about.
front of me, yeah, with his golf hat on.
and notice that the sign is black.
Oh, it's
With white
on
letters.
black.
That one back in the back is when it was closed and before they tore it down,
so they
and
put-
that shows these.
They put
That's
different
the one
signs
I
up.
that's the one I remember.
That's the one that Doug, he spent his first summer working out of this
Mm-hmm.
depot. And the
Yep.
little story that goes with that was like the first week Doug was working there, I came down to visit him. There might have been somebody else with me, you know, and we were sitting out there. It's like, so what are those things, you know? So, oh, those are fuses, you know? You have to like light these
Like
up. If there's
dynamite?
an emergency, stop. No, they look like a stick of
Oh.
dynamite. It's the same kind of thing you'd throw on the road if you're a trucker that stopped,
Right,
right?
right.
He goes, oh, I'll show you one of these. We lit it up, you know, and it's like, but we got to keep an eye out for the train, right? Because if they see this, I'm in trouble, right? So we're sitting there looking at this thing and shooting the shit or something, and then we look up and there's the damn train
comes the
stopped
train
right
coming.
there, you know? And the guy gets out of the train, just starts chewing Doug up one side and down the other, you know? And it's like,
Dang kids.
don't you
Yeah.
ever do that again? Come on. It's like, sorry, Doug, you know?
So Doug told us stories about the Y loop and
Oh, right.
yeah,
Trying to
passing
hand off the
messages.
messages to
yeah.
the engineer as he went by.
And we've had a Y loop donated to us
Oh, cool.
from, I think it came from Gladbrook,
So then,
but it's up in Minnesota.
Uh,
So we haven't connected yet to
Oh,
get
okay.
it, but it's been donated.
so that needs
us.
to be sitting in the depot then, obviously.
Yep.
And you need to rig up the little string or whatever it was that they had sitting on that thing that we would just attach the message to, and then they would just pass it up, and then
And see, Rob remembers doing that because he tagged along with Doug a lot when,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
he
no.
moved.
He drug all of us along
Yeah.
at least one or two times.
Yeah.
So Doug was telling me, and I didn't remember Rob was there, about the time we were in Elgin, Illinois, and we got a
Went
ride
into
into
Chicago?
into Chicago. So he and I were on the train on the same day.
Yes. And Doug said afterwards, he said, if your mothers had known what he had just done to let these two little boys go with some strange engineer into Chicago with the promise that he was going to bring them back,
Well, you
probably would
know,
have had his.
he was coming back anyway,
Yeah.
you know, and what's the odds of him not getting away or getting away with not bringing back the two kids, right?
But it was a different time.
Yeah, no, he was a great guy.
Those two, they want to bring them back after a while.
Oh, we were good, man. We sat up in the cab with the guy, you know.
After being in that,
it was the newer style. It had the different front end on it, so there was
a little more
That's
roomy
right,
and cushy.
They were.
Is Rob here? Rob,
Yes, Rob's here.
we're telling stories about you.
Me?
Yeah,
Who was the first flyer over there?
about you and Larry going into Chicago on the train.
Yeah, so you probably don't remember. I was on the train that day.
I don't remember going to Chicago.
You don't remember going to Chicago?
Huh?
Okay, so maybe Doug lied then.
How
'cause-
old were you?
Junior high, right?
Yeah, I was staying with Doug there in Elgin, and the guy stopped the train or whatever to do his thing. He's like, "Oh, would you like to take a ride to Chicago and back?" And I was like, "Yeah, man."
Do you remember it?
I remember
Yes.
it very vividly. So I don't remember you being there, but Doug swears you were there. So
I did the same thing either in Cannon Falls, Minnesota, or Northfield, Minnesota,
Okay, so maybe that's Doug.
but not to Chicago.
Maybe Doug is getting his stories confused.
Maybe. But I know Doug,
No, not
when we
Doug.
interviewed Doug, I know he told a story about you going into Chicago.
I don't think.
Don't
I
think it
don't
was you.
remember
Huh?
It seemed like every place we went was in Minnesota.
I made Cannon Falls and Northfield. Because I remember that one, there was a Minnesota.
Were you in Northfield that
Viking
time that the
running
whole
back we
family
met.
were up there, like Al Nagel and Calvin, and you weren't there?
When he was railroading?
Yeah, Northfield.
In Northfield.
Turned into quite the party, you know, and it was like, probably just as well we don't
drove
talk
up-
about that
drove
on the
up to
recording.
St. Paul and cruised down Hennepin Avenue. Just to say we done it.
No,
So was Rob there when you guys lit the fuse? When Doug lit the fuse?
I don't think you were there in Dunkerton the day that Doug stopped the train accidentally when he was showing me the red fuse. Were you there?
FUZ? No, I don't. No, not in Dunkerton.
You know, we're sitting there
That wasn't.
not
Dunkerton
paying
wasn't
attention. The
enough of an
damn train
adventure.
snuck right up to us, right? And the guy stopped the train. We looked up, was like, "Oh, damn, I'm in trouble now." And he was.
Oh, I'll bet.
Man, he got
How does
chewed.
a train sneak up on you?
They did.
Good question.
We were watching for it too. Doug's like, as soon as you see something of the train, we got to put this thing out before they see it. Otherwise, I'm in trouble, you know. And it's like, look up, I was like, oh, God, we're in trouble now. It was like his first week on the job, right?
Oh, no.
Because I sat at my house and I could hear
That
the
makes
train
that
rumbling
makes
out of
sense though to
Dunkerton.
train them locally before they send them off. You know.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
He spent
that
this,
makes most sense.
a big chunk of the summer here in Dunkerton, and then the next year they sent him further afield once he had learned the ropes.
Him and Andy both.
Oh, I forgot about Andy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Andy did it too.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have remembered that.
He wound up down in St. Joe for a while, and then he was out western Iowa. I'm trying to think of the name of one of the towns he was out there. Cause yeah, him and Doug, and it's like Doug's always begging to get somebody to come along because he's bored to death. Because how many trains go through there in a day? You know, maybe
Two.
two.
Yeah. So you have a couple hours work, you know, and unless it was a busy station.
That's what always killed me. He getting paid big money. I mean, he got paid nicely for working for the railroad.
Right.
You know, and he,
Right.
20 minutes is all
And he
it
got
took.
by cheap because we always camped out in the cargo.
Yeah,
back
exactly.
row.
We always slept in the depot.
Yeah.
Like sleeping in a museum.
Hmm.
You know, he started asking me questions about the depot furniture and stuff. It's like, dang, I don't remember there being anything particularly nice about any of those depots.
No.
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 Basically, there was a desk and a chair for them and a bench.
Yeah.
That was
Nothing had a
it.
cushion on it. It was
No.
all wood, everything.
Like an old church pew.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the Northfield one seemed to have a long, like a desk or something, running like an island running down there. Because don't you remember when
Like a customer counter?
Al Nagel fell asleep standing up, leaning on the counter, snoring, right?
There was no beer.
No, none whatsoever. Al Nagel and beer, they never went together, did they?
No.
We're not going to get Al in trouble on this story. It's kind of like when we moved to Milwaukee. The whole family took us up there, and all the men ended up on the roof of the building, and all the women were in the apartment, kind of thing. gotta have been unruly after
Sounds
dark.
about right.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about the depot and stuff, and I know you got one of those old phones over here, but we still have Mother's that she got from retiring, and thought, well,
It's kind of a matching set to the Dale
Yeah.
Cummings phone.
Right.
Right here.
to where you could put that in the depot, because, you know, for,
Anyway, yeah, if you need to like strip off the plaque or something to make it look authentic or whatever, that's
We
fine too.
wouldn't take the plaque off. But yeah, that's the intention, is put a phone up in the depot. And
I don't remember where I got it. I want to say it was when Norm and Carolyn lived up here.
You got the Dale Cummings phone?
No,
no,
but
we
for
got that from
years-
David.
For years, I had one of those glass blue things that was one of the
The batteries?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a battery jar that Luann donated.
So you
This
could
one
rig-
was a rectangle. It was about like that.
Yep.
And that it was blue.
Well, you could rig that up, you know, and have it, you know, kind of wired
Yeah,
up
it
to
got
the
broke.
phone, even though it's.
It was in the garage for years.
Not
But,
doing
but we
anything.
have one that Luann gave us. I think
Not
it's in the.
mine.
We don't have yours because you broke it.
because you broke it.
It got broke.
Yeah, by the time, you know, I was old enough to remember anything, I remember the big old battery that sat in the crank phone in the kitchen, you know, it was kind of a big battery. It was a 9-volter or something. Remember
6, I
that?
bet they were 6 volt.
Could have been.
I think it was 6.
I bet they were.
All I remember when that phone like that was in our house, and they had a thunderstorm, and all of a sudden the lightning hit somewhere, and we had a bird cage about 3 foot away, and it arced from the phone clear of the bird cage and fried the bird.
Yeah, my grandma talked about it arcing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the lightning would strike.
I remember doing it across the room with outlets. But
Technically,
Never
the
seen it.
battery box jar came from my brother Alan.
Oh, okay,
I drug it in the airplane.
okay. I think I might have credited it to you.
So is yours
That's
a
okay,
blue?
he'll never
Okay.
know.
Is yours a blue one?
No, mine's clear.
Clear.
Because we're
And
just
it had a big
happier.
heavy rim?
Yeah, we aren't.
We brought it back from Texas. It was in our back
Brought it in
seat.
your car.
I thought that was round.
It is round.
Oh, it is round?
Yeah, it's round.
Somewhere I have a square one. It's in the house.
Well, don't let it get broken.
I won't. I'll bring it back. There's a lot of stuff in the house I haven't looked at, but was mom's.
Yeah, Doug and Larry and I were talking about that Civil War rifle too, about,
Yeah, you guys got any interest in an old Civil War vintage rifle?
Of course. We do have a rifle down here that Tom Swanson made.
Are you guys sure you want to do?
Huh?
otherwise it just sits in my closet for the last 47
Otherwise,
years.
it'll end up in Minneapolis or someplace later, you know, that has nothing related to Dunkerton
Yeah.
to it. Yeah, it's very similar to this. It's,
Yeah, Jack told us this is a Revolutionary War era model.
Oh, right. Do you remember any details about that rifle, Cal?
Well, the patent date's 1824, and it was originally a flash pan, and then they converted them over in 1844 to percussion cap.
Okay.
So they had to change the barrel out and the hammer, but that's what he carried.
So regarding the gun that Cal's talking about, we think it's related to Alton Clark,
It is.
who was our great-great-grandfather
Mhm.
on the Follett, well,
Well, our
on
Grandma
the Follett
Smith,
branch of the line.
well, Grandma Smith, her family,
Yeah.
because her grandfather was a Clark.
Mm-hmm.
But when Doug did the research, it wasn't just Alton, it was him and his 3 brothers and his father were all in the Union Army.
Mm-hmm.
And none of them were in the same unit
Hmm.
because Alton came from
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I think there was one from Indiana and there was 1 or 2 from Iowa.
Maybe Illinois.
Yeah, there might have been Illinois too, but none of them were in the same unit. But then was it you or Doug found the Follets?
It was me. I was doing the research. And
There's 4 of them?
Orrin Willis's father, Orange Follett, he had 4 brothers or 5 brothers that were all in the Civil War too. So we don't know if it came through the Follett side, the Clark side.
Well, Clark is all we ever heard. Alton.
But by the time we came across it, it was in June's old house down there on Sycamore Street. So it came into town with Charles and his wife. So I'm not sure why they would have ended up with it if it come from the Follett line or from the Clark side, to be honest. But anyway,
Well, Follett and Clark were tied together through Grandma.
right. But they weren't descendants of the Clarks.
No,
Yeah.
well, she was.
By marriage.
Because her
right. That
mother
was-
was a Clark.
Right.
Were you interested in seeing a little bit of Past Perfect, the software?
Yeah, sure.
Behind the scenes? Okay.
Okay, so Danial Brunn, who lived out on Big Rock Road, or what is now Big Rock Road, and LWF Smith, his son-in-law, which was just across the road, together started the German Evangelical Church, and it was on Danial Brunn's farm, and then eventually, right around 1896 or 7, whenever the Brunn family moved into Waterloo, LWF Smith relocated the church into Dunkerton, right across the street from where he lived, which
It was on Dunkerton Road, and it was
Dunkerton
about
Road.
a block down from our church,
Yeah,
from the Methodist
exactly.
Church. Yep.
And it was there until, I think when LWF Smith died, they closed that church, and then that building was eventually sold to the, I have found the deed of transfer, it was like in the 1930s or something. It was quite late, so it might have sat there for a while.
I thought it was where the Witzenberg house was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that is on Dunkerton Road,
And on Dunkerton Road, yeah.
and whatever that street is, where's the map? Anyway,
Marble, I think.
and then the Methodist Church took the building up to their site and then made it into the Sunday school room.
Right.
And then eventually you tore it down, right, when you built your
Yeah,
new
put a
Sunday
new
school
building,
addition?
yeah.
Or,
However, we saved some of the beams out of it, and my dad made a great big full-size, life-size cross
well,
that
see,
sits in the corner of our church, up in the sanctuary.
Really?
Yep.
yeah, so Daniel Brunn was kind of like the spiritual leader of the German immigrants, because that little story I forwarded to you that was recorded by my great aunt Lulu, the German minister sought him out, going from township to township looking for him, and sought him out. And one of the first services was held at Danial Brunn's homestead site, basically inside the tent that they were living in as a family. And that little story says that they spread the word around, and all the immigrant Germans came in and participated in their first church service in Barclay / Leicester townships. I don't know how far their draw was at that point in time, but it was within, sending the kids off on the horse to send the word to come at, tonight at 7 o'clock or whatever for the service. So.
It was all pre-Dunkerton.
And I don't know, I could probably figure out what year that they built that church as a church. And then I contacted random train of thought here, but I contacted the librarian in Waterloo and tried to figure out where we go about finding the record book for that church. And they have, so when the Brunn family moved into Waterloo, they joined the German Evangelical Church there, and the museum in Waterloo actually has the book for that church. And the Brunn family is listed in there as one of the sons was one of the leaders of that church. And I was asking where I could find the church book associated with the church that moved into Dunkerton, and she set me on the trail of tracking it down, which I haven't done yet. But it was eventually the Evangelical Church was merged with whatever church, which was merged with whatever church, and she said, you need to follow that paper trail and try to figure out who's got it in their archives.
But getting back to the cemetery,
Okay, what was that?
where the original cemetery was.
Oh, right. So that's what started this whole storyline. It was that was the German cemetery there, probably for the evangelicals.
Yeah, it was a German Evangelical Church.
And
or cemetery.
and I wouldn't be surprised if the land wasn't owned by LWF Smith, and then
I thought it was Daniel
Well,
that did the donation.
Daniel owned it, the section that wasn't part of the cemetery, right around the turn of the century or something when they wanted to expand the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And then the son, Daniel David Smith, then donated a big swath of that tract up there, which is now the cemetery. And I did find the title, change of transfer title for that. And at the time, David Smith and his wife, who was a Belmer, lived in what is now the Baptist parsonage. And it turns out the Baptist parsonage house was actually built by his brother Frank. So Frank built that house and then sold it to David, and David lived there. And then in the end, when LWF Smith was too old to take care of himself, he ended up living with David and his wife and died in that house. So little did we know growing up that which is now the Baptist parsonage house, had ties to our family.
Huh. So you mentioned Frank Belmer?
Frank Smith.
Smith, okay. What was the Belmer name that you gave?
I think was it Isla? No, what was her name? I can't remember what David's wife's name was, but she was a Belmer.
Because we have a book over there about Harold Belmer, written by his
So-
granddaughter.
It could be, I mean, they could be tied together. I'd have to look at the family
Okay.
tree thing.
You might be
There's some
interested in that
Belmers
book.
up there in the cemetery.
I have not refreshed my memory on that whole thing with her side of the family.
Okay.
We have to like have themes every day, then I can go back to my ancestry tree and look at that and go, okay, this is what it is. Get straight on the facts.
There's some Belmers buried up there, not too far from old Smith land,
Right.
which is probably tied in by marriage.
Probably. I mean, there's probably her parents might be there, and then some brothers and sisters might be there.
Yeah.
They never had any children, so there were no Smith descendants from that line.
Daniel.
Yeah. But Frank, he was like a construction guy, and then there was an Albert. One of them was like a plasterer guy, and they all end up in Waterloo at some point.
Well, I learned stonemason from.
So their children were cousins to Oliver, and when we were doing the cemeteries here last week, we stumbled across Albert and his wife, and turned around right behind him, and there was a Lloyd Smith. And I said, "Oh, that's like our first cousin 3 times removed, kind of thing." You know, it's like you can't fall over a stone without it being a relative, probably.